Now we'll learn about section 15, that is artificial humidification. Under this section there are three subsections, but before going to this we'll learn what is artificial humidification, where it is required and why. Artificial humidification, to be in simple words, is a process wherein we introduce water vapor to the atmosphere in order to increase the humidity. As you can see in this picture, the steam is being introduced to the workroom in order to increase the humidity. Now where this is required? This is required especially in case of textile industries where the product quality is of great importance. The word humidity has got a great importance in textile industry as it is directly affecting the product quality and the cost. Now let us consider a cotton strand, cotton fiber, which passes through various machines. Now the process, if we carry it out in a dry atmosphere, what will happen? The cotton strand will tend to break. But at the same time, if you provide a good humidity atmosphere, the product will be of very good quality. At the same time, it has got a cost implication too. For example, a product which is carried out in a very good relative humidity atmosphere will tend to carry more weight compared to the product which is carried out in a dry atmosphere. For example, if I consider 80 ton of cotton with a good relative humidity atmosphere versus a product which is carried out in a dry atmosphere, it will make a difference of at least 3000 to 4000 kgs. Now this is a huge cost. That is the reason why the artificial humidification plays a major role in textile industries. Now we'll move on to subsection 1, which says that in respect of all factories in which the humidity of air is artificially increased, the state government may make rules. Now here the power is given to the state government to make rules. Rules prescribing the standard of humidification, A, followed by B, regulating the method for artificial humidification, C, the test for determining the humidity of air, and D, method to be adopted for adequate ventilation. Now state government have to frame rules especially in regards to the standards of humidification, the method in which to be carried out, the test for determining the humidity, and the method to be adopted for adequate ventilation. Okay, now different state will have different humidity and atmosphere factor, so the rules will vary from state to state, but I'll just mention a summary of the Goa Factory Rules 1985. So the Goa Factory Rules says that is what I have written in yellow is Goa Factory Rules summary. So the first one says that no artificial humidification by steam in cotton or weaving and spinning when dry bulb temperature exceeds 29 degrees centigrade, or when if the wet bulb temperature exceeds dry bulb temperature as per the schedule. You cannot carry out artificial humidification by steam if the dry bulb temperature is more than 29 degrees centigrade, okay, and if the wet bulb temperature exceeds dry bulb temperature. That in a schedule, there is a schedule which is given in the Goa Factory Rules. In that schedule there is a column of wet bulb temperature, there is a column of dry bulb temperature. Now if the wet bulb temperature is exceeding the dry bulb temperature in the schedule, then you cannot carry out artificial humidification. So there are two conditions in which you cannot carry out artificial humidification. Now the second one is provision for hygrometer. Now if you are carrying out artificial humidification, okay, then you need to place a hygrometer. Now hygrometer, as we know, is a device used to measure relative humidity. Now when you are placing this hygrometer in any department and in location, you need to take prior approval for the location and position of the hygrometer from factory inspector. Now the next one is temperature to be recorded for each hygrometer humidity register in form 9. You need to record temperature, you need to take at least 3 readings, and in exceptional cases more than 3 readings. So all this reading you have to enter in register in form 9. Okay. The next one is how to introduce steam for humidification. Under these rules there are piping dimensions have been given, and also what kg the steam has to be introduced, like 5 kg per centimeter square is what is mentioned. Especially the piping has to be insulated. Now all these things are mentioned in this how to introduce steam for humidification. Okay, so with this we'll move on to our next subsection. Subsection 2, it says that in any factory in which the humidity of air is artificially increased, the water used for the purpose shall be taken from public supply or source of drinking water or shall be effectively purified. That means the water that you are taking for the artificial humidification, that is to be either taken from the public water supply, or second option is that it has to be a source of drinking water, and the third option is that it has to be effectively purified. Okay, so the third subsection 3, if it appears to the inspector that water used for the humidification is not effectively purified, he may order in writing specifying the measures to be taken to the manager. Now, if the inspector finds that the water which is used for artificial humidification is not effectively purified, then he may write a letter to the manager of the factory in regards to the measures that has to be taken for making the purification of water, and then it could be used for artificial humidification. So this is as far as the artificial humidification is concerned. Now we'll learn about section 16, that is overcrowding. This section has got 4 subsections. The first one says that no room in a factory shall be overcrowded to an extent injurious to the health of the workers employed. Now we all have gone through a crowd situation, and we all know that how uncomfortable it is in a crowd. So I'll just explain this with an example. Let us consider a room. Now this is a top view of room. This room has got a ventilation and capacity for just 5 people. Now 5 people can comfortably work in this room. Now what if I add 15 more people? 15 more people. Now you see that how crowded situation is. Now what happens in this case when so many people work in a room? The body will release heat, and at the same time, if there is no proper ventilation inside the room, the temperature will tend to increase, and all the people inside this room will feel the heat and the uncomfort. At the same time, as we know that this room is just designed for the ventilation system of just 5 people, it will not take a load of 15 more people, and situation will be very uncomfortable. And at the same time, since there will be oxygen deficiency, so people might feel suffocation inside this room, and they will also not have the efficiency that will be required for carrying out that job. So that is the reason why the overcrowding plays a major important in this factory act. Now if there is any situation in a room due to overcrowding which is to such an extent that it is injurious to the health of the workers, then it should not be allowed. Okay, there should be no room with such overcrowd. Now with this we'll move on to section 2. It says that at least 14.2 cubic meter of space for every worker employed therein, and no account shall be taken for any space which is more than 4.2 meter above the level of the floor of the room. Now this subsection specifies the space which is required for the worker in numbers. Okay, so now let us consider this room. The space is given in cubic meter. This is the space required for one person. The maximum height it can has is 4.2 meter. Okay, so the total capacity is 14.2 meter cube. So if I divide this by height, 14.2 divided by 4.2, it comes to 3.38 meters square. Now if I consider this a square, L square is equal to 3.38 meters square, then L is equal to square root of 3.38. square root 1.83. So L is equal to 1.83. If I see a square that is allotted to a person is 1.83 meter by 1.83 meter. Now this much of space, minimum space on a shop floor that person can have. With this we will move on to our next subsection. If a chief inspector by order in writing requires, then notice has to be put up in the room specifying the maximum number of workers. Now this is something like when we go in an elevator or a lift, the number of people, maximum people that could be that the elevator can withstand is mentioned. At the same time, weight in kgs also is mentioned in the elevator. So the same way, if chief inspector feels that the notice is to be put in any room so that the maximum number of person is not exceeded, then he can specify in writing. Okay, and notice should specify the maximum number of workers then that room can have. Now we will see subsection 4, which says that the chief inspector may order in writing to exempt any workroom from the provision of this section. That means power is given to the chief inspector to exempt any workroom from the provision of this section, that is overcrowding. So this was all about section 16, overcrowding. Now we'll learn about section 17, that is lighting. In this section there are 4 subsections, but before going to this subsection we'll learn about light. What is instrument used to measure light, how light is measured, and what are the different terms and units in light. Now first one, as you can see over here in this picture, an instrument which is used to measure light, which is also called as lux meter or light meter. A sensor which is placed over here on which the light falls, and a reading is given in this digital meter. So this instrument which is called as lux meter gives you an idea how much light is present in a particular area or region. Now the terms which are used in light, the first one is luminous intensity. Luminous intensity will give you an idea of how much light is passing in a particular direction or specific direction. The unit of luminous intensity is candela. The more the luminous intensity, that means the more the number of rays of light are passing through that particular region or specific area. The less the luminous intensity, less the number of rays are passing in a specific direction. Okay. The next term is lumen, or the lumen is a unit of luminous flux. Luminous flux gives an idea how much total light is radiated by a light source. This is a light source and it radiates light in all directions. So it will calculate the amount of total light that is radiated by this light source. Whereas in case of luminous intensity, it calculates light only in a particular direction. Now moving on to the next term, lux. As you have already heard of it, I explained this instrument which is shown over here measures light in lux. So this instrument is used and it will indicate a light in a particular region. If I place it over here, it will give you an idea how much light is present in this region. If I place it over here, it will give you an idea how much light is present in this region. So the unit of that is lux. So we'll understand this with a more better example. As you can see a candle placed over here, the candle will give out light in all direction. Okay, so the luminous flux will calculate the amount of total light that is radiated by this candle, and the unit will be lumen. The next term is luminous intensity. Now if we need to calculate the amount of light in a specific direction, that will be given by candela, which is unit of luminous intensity. Now this is required because there are certain light which we require light in a specific direction, for example torch or a spotlight or a focus. We don't want light to fall in all direction but a particular direction. That is where the luminous intensity comes into picture. After the light falls on the surface on a particular region, we can calculate its lux, how much light is present in this particular area, that is given by illuminance. The unit of illuminance is lux, and after light falls on the surface it is reflected, and that is what you can see. So that is given by luminance, that is candela per meter square. So this is the light of reflection that which makes us finally see an object. Okay, so we'll move on to a section. So the first subsection says that in every part of a factory where workers are working or passing, there shall be provided and maintained sufficient and suitable lighting, natural, artificial, or both. Which means that in a room in a factory where worker is passing or he may be working, arrangement shall be made using natural light. Natural light is something which we get from sun or moon. Okay, and artificial light is from what we get from bulb, tube light, or any other focus, okay, which we place in a workroom or shop floor. So arrangement shall be made such that there is sufficient amount of light for that worker to work. So the next subsection 2, in every factory all glazed windows and skylight used for lighting of the workroom shall be kept clean on both the inner and outer surface. Cleaning has to be done to all the light source, let it be natural or artificial. If there are windows, light is coming from the windows, then windows has to be cleaned. If light is coming from the tops of bulbs or tube lights that you're placing, it should be cleaned periodically so that the illumination is not affected. Now why this illumination is so important? More the illumination, more will be the visibility, more you can see the object, and less will be the chances of accident. So moving to the next subsection 3. So the clause of A of that says that effective provision shall be made for the prevention of glare directly from the source of light or by reflection from the smooth or polished surface. Now what is glare? Glare is something, if I give you a better example, if you are going by a car at night, and you see a headlight of the front vehicle which is coming in opposite direction, and it becomes extremely difficult for us to drive in such case. So glare is nothing but a light which is of high intensity and directly falling onto our eyes, either directly or by reflection. Now this makes the condition highly uncomfortable for our eyes to work. So that is glare. So the light should be placed in such a manner that the glare is avoided, and even the reflection from this any source of light which is causing glare should be eliminated. Now the next clause B, which says that prevent the formation of shadow to such an extent as to cause eye strain or to risk of accident to any worker. Now in certain cases, if light is placed behind you or light is placed at such a location that is causing a shadow at a point of operation, such condition shall be avoided so that it does not cause any eye strain or accident. Next subsection 4, which says that state government may prescribe the standard of sufficient and suitable lighting for the factories. Now the power is given to the state government to form the standards of lighting. So we'll see this standards. Now we'll just have a glance at the Goa factory rules. This is a summary of the Goa factory rules. So we'll go through this one by one. The first one says that lighting of the interior parts shall not be less than 65 lux, measured in a horizontal plane at level of 90 cm above the floor. Now suppose if you have to measure lighting on the shop floor, we'll be using a lux meter. And this lux meter should be placed 90 cm above the floor. And lighting should not be less than 65 lux. But there are certain situations where it could be less than 65 lux, such as in case because of the structure of the building, uniform attainment of light is not possible, then general illumination shall not be less than 22 lux. Illumination at the place of actual work should not be less than 65 lux. Now this is if we consider this image where work is being carried out. Okay, so this place where the work is being carried out, the illumination should not be less than 65 lux. Now rest of the places where because of the structure uniform attainment of light is not possible, there it should not be less than 22 lux. Now next, interior parts where the person is passing shall not be less than 5 lux. Now interior part of the factory where work is not being carried out or person has to pass, just pass, their light should not be less than 5 lux. Next one is avoid hard shadows, strong contrast, and free from direct or reflected glare. Now shadows are formed especially when an object comes in front of the light. Now it might be a structure or any other object, because of which the area where actual work is being carried out becomes under shadow and person visibility decreases. So there are chances of extent. Similarly, case of contrast. Now what is glare? Glare, suppose if there is light which is directly placed in front of you, the person will have eye strain and difficulty in working. So glare may be direct glare which is directly coming from the light placed in front, or it might be indirect glare such as light getting reflected from other surface and coming onto your eyes. So such things should be avoided. Now prevention of glare. Light placed below 4.9 meter from the floor, then ensure the angle of elevation with the eye is more than 20 degree. Now suppose if work is being carried out, the person is working over here and there is light placed, say around 4.9 meter, below 4.9 meter, light is placed over here. So this is normal from the eye, and this is the angle which the light makes with the eye. So if this angle is less than 20 degree, the light will directly come onto the eye and it will affect. So the light should be placed at a height. Okay, so the angle is more, this angle is more than 20 degree. Okay, so that the glare of the light does not come directly on the eye. So this such condition should be taken care of. And second one, any local light should be provided with suitable shade of opaque material to prevent glare. Now opaque material such as the headlights come with opaque material, so it's not a transparent material, so that entire light is not transferred, it's opaque, so the intensity decreases and there is less glare that comes onto the eye. This is as far as the lighting in the Goa factory rules is concerned, but the rule also provides a schedule which gives an idea of different lighting, such as lighting in laboratory, lighting in electrical rooms, or lighting where discrete object identification is required, minute detailing is required. So all this schedule is given in Goa factory rules.